I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, a historic vote. Former President Donald Trump is indicted and expected to surrender early next week. What this could mean for the 2024 presidential election. Asking questions. President Joe Biden declines to address President Trump's indictment. We're at the White House. Laid to rest. Funeral services are set for the victims killed in the Nashville school shooting. Bishop Joseph Spalding of the Diocese of Nashville joins us to discuss. And normal recovery. A Vatican spokesman says the Holy Father is expected to be discharged on Saturday. We have a report from Rome. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, a historic first. Last night, Donald Trump was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury, making him the first person to hold the office of President of the United States to ever face criminal charges. Former President Donald Trump is set to be arraigned on Tuesday in New York and faces more than 30 counts related to business fraud, marking the first time in American history that a former or current president has faced criminal charges.
I think there's a paradox there, but I think you're asking for the prosecutor to have some discretion. If the reality is the prosecutor has campaigned on a pledge to voters that he's going to prosecute Donald Trump regardless of the facts.
The Manhattan grand jury decided to move forward with charges against Trump late Thursday, drawing outrage from some Republicans.
This is legal voodoo.
Former President Trump, who is expected to plead not guilty, has called the indictment political persecution and election interference at the highest level. The long-running probe looked into whether hush money paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016 was directed by Trump. Michael Cohen, Trump's former attorney and so-called fixer, was previously sentenced to prison on federal campaign finance charges over his role in the $130,000 payment.
This is about the adage that no one is above the law. This is also about that whatever laws that sent me to prison should send him to prison.
President Joe Biden was asked several times today to comment on President Trump's indictment. The questions were directed his way as he walked towards Marine One this morning on his way to Mississippi. Our own White House correspondent Owen Jensen was one of those journalists trying to get the president's reaction. Owen?
Tracy, good evening to you. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden traveled to Mississippi today to meet with people who were impacted by that recent deadly tornado. But before he left, he stopped on the South Lawn on his way to Marine One, as you mentioned, to meet briefly with me and other reporters. But he was not too keen on discussing the indictment of former President Donald Trump. President Joe Biden came over to talk, but did not have much to say when asked multiple times about former President Donald Trump's indictment.
Are you worried this will further divide our country, the indictment?
I have no comment on that.
Others were quick to comment, including former Vice President Mike Pence.
I think the unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States for a campaign finance issue is an outrage.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wrote, "The weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda turns the rule of law on its head. It is un-American." Republican Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel agrees. When our justice system is weaponized as a political tool, it endangers all of us. But supporters of the indictment deny it's political.
There is so much corroboration here that everyone's speaking with rhetoric about politicization and weaponization and all these adjectives. I'm talking facts. This is a very factual case, corroborated by a lot of information.
Meanwhile, President Biden arrives in Rolling Fork, Mississippi, or what's left of it.
We got to let people know there's reason for them to have hope, because this is especially the people who lost somebody.
Last Friday night, a vicious tornado killed 21 people, injured dozens, and flattened entire blocks. It carved a path of destruction for more than an hour. About 2,000 homes were damaged or destroyed.
And the thing that really is always amazed me in all the tornadoes I've been to of late is that you have one house standing, and one house from here to the wall totally destroyed. It's but for the grace of God.
Now, during his remarks today, President Biden in Mississippi also said the tornado that devastated Rolling Fork was there for just 3 minutes, doing all that damage. He also told survivors everywhere he goes in America after similar devastating storms, he always sees neighbors reaching out to help their fellow neighbor. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, on Capitol Hill, as expected, news of former President Trump's indictment broke along party lines. Republicans are defending the former president. Some contend the probe was an organized operation, while Democrats express no one is above the law. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales is following all of this and has more. Eric?
Good evening, Tracy. You know, the halls of Congress, they're all quiet now. Lawmakers left town to begin their 2-week Easter break before the news of the indictment broke. As you mentioned, Republicans are coming to the aid and defense of former President Donald Trump, including Congressman Brian Mast of Florida.
Not felt this way from the very beginning, that the left has had a wanted poster up for the president that's basically said, you know, wanted dead or alive. And I continue to feel that way.
But former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tweeted, quote, "The grand jury has acted upon the facts and the law, and no one is above the law, and everyone has the right to a trial to prove innocence. Hopefully the former president will peacefully respect the system, which grants him that right." Congressman Adam Schiff led the first impeachment trial.
The key issue is Donald Trump being treated the same as other people similarly situated, that is, other people that have committed business crimes? Is he getting the same treatment? And there's no reason to think that he isn't.
In a tweet, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy repeated his promise to investigate. Alvin Bragg has irreparably damaged our country in an attempt to interfere in our presidential election. The American people will not tolerate this injustice, and the House of Representatives will hold Alvin Bragg and his unprecedented abuse of power to account. Senator Lindsey Graham, the lead Republican on the Judiciary Committee, said in a statement, quote, "This is a shocking and dangerous day for the rule of law in America. This is one of the most irresponsible decisions in American history by any prosecutor. So how does this end? Trump wins in court, and he wins at the ballot box." So can Donald Trump run for president? John Malcolm with the Heritage Foundation tells me, despite the indictment, yes.
He not only could run for president while he is under indictment, he could be convicted and imprisoned and still run for president.
It is important to note that House Republican leaders on 3 committees have set today as a deadline for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to testify about his pursuit in the Donald Trump case. He has repeatedly refused, so it's more than likely that those committee chairs are going to subpoena Mr. Bragg in the near future. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
A journalist with the Wall Street Journal has been detained in Russia on suspicion of trying to obtain classified information. American Evan Gerskovich is currently being held in a city east of Moscow. Today, President Joe Biden urged Russia to let the 31-year-old go. The Wall Street Journal sent out a statement denying the accusations and seeks the immediate release of their employee. Police now believe the shooter who killed 3 adults and 3 children at a Nashville Christian school on Monday had weapons training. They say it is unclear when and where 28-year-old Audrey Hale received that training. Meantime, the first funeral connected with this week's massacre took place today. A service was held for 9-year-old Evelyn Deckhouse. She will be laid to rest tomorrow. Her parents described her as a shining light in the world. Services for the other victims will take place on Sunday and continue into next week. Joining us tonight is Bishop Joseph Spalding of the Diocese of Nashville. Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us today. Of course, we're praying and mourning with you all tonight, and definitely our prayers are with the family and the entire Nashville community. Can you tell us, how is everyone holding up there?
Well, we are relying on the love of God and the love of everyone around us right now. And I do believe that in these trying moments, in times of crisis and drama and trauma, that people do come forth that are good and loving and caring and kind. And we're seeing that all over the city. And really, we're receiving prayers and condolences from all across the United States and around the world. So in many ways, in this trying and difficult moment, there's many acts and words of love and compassion and care.
And I understand also the Holy Father sent you a telegram with a message for Nashville. If you don't mind, can you share that with us and tell us what he said?
Well, he just expressed his deepest sympathies and condolences to the families and to the heartbreak of the whole city and nation. And he said that he would be praying for us and that we should evermore draw ourselves to the Lord and his victory over sin, death, darkness, and all sorts of evil that are in the world.
And Your Excellency, so many people were trying to wrap their head around this tragedy and try and make sense of it. What would you say to people in a time like this when it really seems like there aren't any words to say?
And I said similar in a homily that I gave at the Mass the very day of the shooting. We had a scheduled Mass at our cathedral at 5:30, and I said in these difficult moments when you're speaking to family and friends, just tell them you love them, you care for them, and that you are there for them. One little story, we have a pastor that was outreaching to one of the families, and in that moment, he just opened his book of prayer and prayed those prayers for the dead that we have in the church in these moments. And they said so much to the family, more than, as the priest said, that I could say to them, is what the prayers of the church give us in these kind of moments. So that's how we're reaching out. We're reaching out in prayer. We're reaching out in prayers, lifting up our prayers through the Mass and various other devotions that we have in the church.
Well, Your Excellency, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate it. Please be assured of our prayers here, of everyone at EWTN and the EWTN family. We're praying for you all there in Nashville. God bless you.
God bless you, and we sure appreciate the prayers.
Pope Francis will leave the hospital tomorrow to return to the Vatican. The latest updates from Rome with Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief.
Pope Francis will return to the Vatican tomorrow. The Holy See Press Office conveyed the good news in a statement earlier today. Also, we expect to see him in St. Peter's Square, which is just right behind us, this weekend for the celebrations on Palm Sunday. In a statement, Vatican spokesperson Matteo Bruni also disclosed that last night the Holy Father had pizza for dinner, sharing it with those who were assisting him over the last days at Gemelli Clinic, including doctors, assistants, and the staff of the police. Also today, Pope Francis visited young children suffering from cancer, bringing them chocolate eggs, rosaries, and some books. During the half hour he spent with them, he even baptized one of the young patients. So obviously, the health conditions of Pope Francis has improved dramatically since Wednesday, when he was brought to Gemelli in an ambulance suffering from respiratory difficulties. He was diagnosed with a viral bronchitis and is receiving antibiotics. It seems that the treatment had the expected positive effect on Pope Francis's health, and he's expected to return to his apartment in Casa Santa Marta tomorrow morning. Thank you also at this point for joining us in the prayers for our Holy Father over the last couple of days. In Rome, Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN News Nightly.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a journey through Italy. The wife of famed singer Andrea Bocelli joins us to discuss a new family film. And from teammates to sisters, we speak with two women who traded their jerseys for veils. Captures the journey by horseback of famed tenor Andrea Bocelli and his wife Veronica. Together, their family crosses Italy's Via Francigena, an ancient road traveled by pilgrims for centuries. The documentary, called The Journey, starts with the Bocelli family receiving a blessing from Pope Francis and continues with a musical trip through some of Italy's most beautiful locations. Joining us tonight is Veronica Bocelli, wife of Andrea Bocelli and producer of The Journey. Veronica, great to have you with us. This is so wonderful. Tell us, how did the idea of creating this film, how did it come about, and really, what was the end goal of this journey?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me today with you. And it has been something that was born inside Andrea really was a part of his soul and his desire when we were in lockdown a couple of years ago. And he said to me, whenever I'll be able to ride my horse, I won't stop. But if I'm doing it with a purpose, with an aim. And I want to just bring my faith in my heart, but go back in where I was born. So we left from Rome with a benediction of the Holy Father, with the blessing of the Holy Father, and we went back riding the horse toward home.
That is so wonderful. So tell us about that moment when you were with the Holy Father and he blessed the horses and your children. What was that like?
Let me say that was not the first time, but every time is like more than the first, because you understand how blessed you are to be able to have even a few minutes with the man who has the joy in the heart.
Oh, it sounds like it for sure. And then crossing the Via Francigena, I know, is a journey really through history and some of Italy's most majestic spots. But you also say it's a spiritual journey. Tell us why you say that.
It is, because it represents, even if it's a few days, but it summarizes an entire life, because you will go through the beauty of nature, the challenge, because not everything is easy, and it's a representation of everything you will expect in life, and you have to go through that. You can count on the friends around you. My husband, that was my case because we were together, so the upside of my life. And also that you cannot do it without faith, without knowing that you're only an instrument. You're a tool of something higher, something more, I would say really something that guides you, but you need to let him guide you in the right way.
And Veronica, what is it that you want people to take away from this documentary, and what you want them to most take away?
I need to use my husband's word, because he just said that a few days ago in an interview, and he said, I would love for people to be curious about my country, not necessarily the main big city, but whatever is unknown and was unknown even to us, being Italian, until a few months ago. And to always remember that there's hope and joy, even in the darkest moment.
I love that. Veronica, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much, and best of luck with the film. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Palms Up. We prepare for Holy Week, starting with the Eucharistic celebration of Palm Sunday, plus hoops to habits. We hear from two former basketball players who traded in the court for the convent. As the season known as March Madness draws to a close, tonight we bring you the story of two college basketball players who gave up hoops for habits. Pauline's sister Irene, Regina, and Carmelite sister Margaret and Laechelin first met on the basketball court at St. Mary's University in San Antonio. 40 years later, both women are nuns and both serve in South Florida. And joining us tonight, our sister Irene, Regina, and sister Margaret Ann Laechelin. Welcome back. Welcome to you both, sisters. Great to have you here. Sister Margaret Ann, I want to start with you first. Tell us about your friendship that now dates back 4 decades, and walk us back to the fall semester of 1979 when you both met and were friends on the basketball court.
Wow, that was a long time ago. We were just freshmen in college. And we had so much in common. And she was from St. Louis, I'm from San Antonio. So I felt like I was welcoming somebody into our town. And we just really, from the very get-go, had so much in common and enjoyed playing basketball so much together. So it was really great just from the beginning.
Yeah, and Sister Irene, besides shooting hoops and hitting the gym, I understand that Mass and prayer were also a part of the daily regimen for you both. Did you ever imagine that you would both have a vocation together?
No. I was thinking about it since 8th grade, but I don't know. I didn't think anybody else would really be thinking about really religious life. Maybe some of the Marianist brothers that we met some of them in formation throughout the years. But as far as I knew I wanted to be a sister, but I didn't know about
No.
We just want us to be holy, like good people. So
Yeah.
that's where it starts.
We were just searching for God's will in our lives. And somehow we knew that when we figured out what God's will for us, then we would have happiness. And that's what we just knew. Happiness was in doing his will.
It's so important. And I love your story. It's so beautiful. And I know basketball is still really a part of your lives. Sister Margaret, back in 2020, I know you were rooting for the Miami Heat and you showed off some of your moves on the court. And those moves went viral. Talk to us about that moment. We're looking at the video now. And also the way that you've been able to reach people through basketball.
I think anytime you're just really trying to do what's right and help other people out, that God honors that. And even when we did that video, we were trying to do something good to help our students, to bring more school spirit and also to support the Miami Heat. And, you know, we didn't expect it to end up the way it did, but it was good. The students here really like it, and it helps them to see us sisters as real people, and that we have interest in real life. That I wasn't born a baby Carmelite. Sister wasn't born a baby sister either. We had lives before the convent.
Well, thank you both for talking to us and sharing your story with us. We loved hearing it, and God bless you both.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tracy. God bless.
And as we reported earlier, Pope Francis is expected to be present in St. Peter's Square for the Eucharistic celebration of Palm Sunday. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Thonhauser joins us once again and tells us a little more about the religious value of this celebration and its connection to World Youth Day.
St. Peter's Square will be filled with thousands of faithful attending the traditional Palm Sunday procession and Mass. Pope Francis is expected to be present. Palm Sunday commemorates Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem and marks the beginning of Holy Week, during which the last days of Christ's earthly life are reenacted and his passion, death, and resurrection are celebrated. Although it is commonly called Palm Sunday, the more correct definition is Sunday of the Passion of the Lord, because it is the beginning of the Great Week. The arrival of Jesus in Jerusalem among the jubilant crowds represents the last moment of joy before the crucifixion. The symbol of this Sunday is the palm tree. In fact, people welcome Jesus by waving branches of trees. In John's Gospel, it specifies that these were palm trees. In the actual liturgy of Palm Sunday, the blessing of palm and olive branches is held a symbol of peace and a clear reference to the figure of Christ, who, through his sacrifice, becomes an instrument of reconciliation and peace for all humanity. Over the years, Palm Sunday has also become a special day for young people. In fact, in 1983 to 1984, the Holy Year of Redemption was being celebrated. 1,950 years since the Passion of Jesus, when St. John Paul II decided to schedule a youth gathering for Palm Sunday. The organizing committee expected 60,000 participants, but 250,000 arrived. The following year, the Pope again summoned young people to Rome for Palm Sunday. This time, the response was great. 300,000 young people spread throughout the city's churches for various moments of prayer and catechesis, and then gathered in St. Peter's Square to participate in the celebration with the Holy Father. At the end of 1985, St. John Paul II announced the institution of World Youth Day to be celebrated annually in the dioceses. He also indicated a specific date, Palm Sunday. The diocesan celebration was soon joined by a major world meeting that was initially held every 2 years. The first World Youth Day, celebrated in dioceses in 1986, was thus followed by the first major international edition, which took place in 1987 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, giving a very strong sign in a country that was emerging from dictatorship. In 2020, Pope Francis decided to transfer the diocesan celebration of World Youth Day from Palm Sunday to Christ the King Sunday, held on the last Sunday of the liturgical year. This event will be skipped this year precisely because World Youth Day will be held in Lisbon, Portugal, from August 1st to August 6th with the theme Mary Got Up and Went in Haste. An event in which Pope Francis will also participate, reaching thousands of people from around the world who will gather for a new international meeting of Catholic youth spirituality, sharing, and culture. In Rome, Andreas Thonhauser and Matteo Cioffi, EWTN News Nightly.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.